Before we leave this troubled time, let's return to the surah that approved exiling Jews. In this passage, Allah takes credit for Muhammad's actions, something that is both bizarre and sinister.
Quran 59, verse 2. It was Allah who drove the Jewish people from their
Yathrib
homes and into exile. They refused to believe. You did not think that they would go away, and they imagined that their strongholds would protect them against Allah. But Allah's torment came at them from where they did not suspect. He terrorized them. Their homes were destroyed. So learn a lesson, men who have eyes. This is my warning. Had I not decreed the expulsion of the Jews, banishing them into the desert, I would have punished them in this world, and in the next they shall taste the punishment of hellfire. This is because they resisted Allah and His Messenger. If anyone resists Allah, verily Allah is severe in punishment, stern in reprisal.
Their only crime was resisting Islam. So by that logic, all non-Muslims are fair game. The obviously powerless, and thus delusional, Islamic spirit said,
Quran 59, verse 6, What Allah gave as booty to His Messenger, He has taken away from the Jews. For this you made no raid. Allah gives His Messenger lordship over whom He will. Whatever booty Allah has given to Muhammad and taken away from the Jewish people of the townships belongs to Allah and to His apostle. So take what the messenger assigns to you, and deny yourselves that which he withholds, and fear Allah, for He is severe in punishment.
This all-in-one Islamic verse is the reason the religion of Islam cannot be fixed. It features racism, violent hostility, banishment, destruction, thievery, wrath, terror, forced exile, severe punishment, and threats for those who resist. A doctrine this perverse will continue to fester and grow. It will infect men's minds and souls until the whole world is consumed in war. Year 3 of the Islamic era opens with a story. The headline reads,
The murder of Kab bin Ashraf, the evil genius of the Jews.
The drama begins with some boasting.
Tabari. The Prophet sent messengers to the people of Medina, announcing the good news of the victory granted to him by Allah at Badr. They listed the names of the polytheists they had killed.
Only a sick man gloats over the death of civilians. I recognize that you have been overwhelmed with a steady diet of revolting stories, but I want to remind you that I am not avoiding religious stuff to prove that Mohammed was a terrorist. There hasn't been a single nurturing, loving, positive, tolerant, or even remotely religious thought presented in the Islamic Hadith since we arrived at Yathrib, today's Medina. While there is no message of salvation in Islam, there is an overwhelming need for one. Simply stated, Muhammad was unable to give Muslims a reason to live, so he gave them a reason to kill.
Ishaq. Kab bin Ashraf was from the Jewish clan of Banu Nadir. When he heard the news, he said, Can this be true? Did Muhammad actually kill these people? These were fine men. If Muhammad has slain them, then the belly of the earth is a better place for us than its surface.
Kab understood the danger of mixing false religion, booty, and swords. The future looked ominous. For Muhammad, the only good non-Muslim was a dead one.
Ishaq. When the enemy of Allah became convinced the report was true, he set out for Mecca. He began to arouse people against Muhammad.
In other words, he exposed him.
He recited verses in sympathy for the Quraysh men Muhammad had cast into the pit. Kab Ashraf composed the following poetic lines. The blood spilled at Badr calls to its people. They cry and weep. The best men were slain and thrown into a pit.
Poets were the journalists of Muhammad's day. Apart from the Jews, most Arabians were illiterate, so poetry became the most effective means of disseminating a message. The poem Kab wrote on this occasion was 7 lines long. There wasn't a violent word among them. Kab urged the good people of Yathrib to
Drive off that fool of yours so that you might be safe from the talk that makes no sense. Why do you taunt those who mourn over their dead? They lived good lives, and as such we must remember them. But now you have become like jackals.
Astute, concise, and accurate.
Tabari. Then Kab composed poetry about some Muslim women.
As we have learned, chivalry had no place in Islam, so this made the Prophet angry. If Kab had written of lust, pedophilia, and incest, I'm sure Mohammed would have been more understanding. With these next words, Mohammed ordered his first assassination. While only 2 men were slain, the nature of his crime has far-reaching implications. Every detail haunts us today.
Tabari. The Prophet said, "Who will rid me of Ashraf?" Muhammad bin Maslama said, "I will rid you of him, Messenger of Allah. I will kill him." "Do it then," he said, "if you can."
One of the things that makes Islam lethal is that men are ever ready to kill on the Prophet's command. Ordering the assassination of a journalist for exposing a false prophet, a pirate, and a terrorist is serious business. Let's check another source to make sure we have this right.
Bukhari. The Prophet said, "Who is ready to kill Kab bin Ashraf, who has really hurt Allah and his apostle?" Muhammad bin Maslama said, "O Allah's apostle, do you want me to kill him?" He replied in the affirmative.
That wasn't any better. Let's see what the earliest source has to say.
Ishaq. Who will rid me of Ashraf? Maslama said, "I will deal with him for you. O apostle, I will kill him." Muhammad said, "Do so if you can."
Returning to Tabari.
Muhammad bin Maslama was quiet for 3 days, neither eating nor drinking more than would keep him alive. The Prophet summoned him and said, "Why have you given up food and drink?" "O Prophet, I said something and I do not know if I can fulfill it. All that is incumbent on you is to try," Muhammad replied.
This response is chilling when you consider that the subject was assassination.
Ishaq and Tabari. Muhammad bin Maslama said, "O Messenger, we shall have to tell lies." "Say what you like," Muhammad replied. "You are absolved, free to say whatever you must."
The moment this man walked out of the room, Mohammed must have doubled over laughing. The stooge was willing to commit murder, yet he was concerned about lying. And while that's hilarious in a macabre sort of way, consider the value of Mohammed's absolution. Since he had just approved lying, it couldn't have been worth the air it took to offer it. But Mohammed's assassin believed him, and that is why false prophets and corrupt doctrines are so diabolical. Muslim militants still believe him. While the circumstances are bizarre, as the orders are vile, we do have another first. Islam was the first religion to command its faithful to murder and deceive. But since that's a serious charge, let's triple-check our sources.
Bukhari. Allah's apostle said, "Who is willing to kill Kab bin Ashraf, who has hurt Allah and his apostle?" Thereupon, Muhammad bin Maslama got up, saying, "O Allah's apostle, would you like me to kill him?" The Prophet said, "Yes." Maslama said, "Then allow me to say false things in order to deceive him." The Prophet said, "You may say such things."